Hi and welcome to this demo video of MongoDB charts. My name is Thomas Rueckstiess. I'm the lead engineer of the charts team here at MongoDB, and in this demo I'll give a brief introduction to MongoDB charts and show you how to get started visualizing your data. MongoDB charts is integrated into our cloud hosting service at cloud.mongodb.com. I'm in an Atlas project here where I've already set up a MongoDB cluster with some data that I want to visualize. To do that, I can just click here at the top on charts, which will load the charts application. When you enter charts, you'll be taken straight to the dashboard screen. Charts are organized into dashboards, but before we can create a dashboard and add charts, we need to configure a data source. A data source allows charts to read from any collection in your cluster. I can choose from any of the clusters in my project. Once I'm connected to the cluster, I see a list of databases in collections available. For this demo, I'm choosing an Airbnb dataset, which contains Airbnb listings with prices, different types of rooms, numbers of bedrooms, bathrooms, and a lot more information. In this final step, I could share this data source with any other users. But in this case, I'm just going to skip that and publish the data source as it is. Now that I have a data source, I can jump back to the dashboard screen. Remember, every chart lives on a dashboard, so to build a chart, we first have to create a dashboard. I'll give it a title and a description, and click Create. From this empty dashboard, I can create a chart by clicking the Add Chart button. This takes me straight into the chart builder. The first thing you want to do in the chart builder is to choose your data source. I'll choose the one we added earlier. Charts then samples this data source and shows me a list of all the fields on the left-hand side in the field panel. Charts maps all the MongoDB data types to either strings, numbers, dates, or geo-coordinates. It also understands the document model natively, so you can visualize fields from nested documents and arrays, or even arrays with nested documents. For this first chart, I want to create a donut chart, which I can choose here from the chart type selector. Below, you see the encoding panel with two encoding channels. In this case, label, a category channel, and arc, an aggregation channel. Category channels are typically used for discrete data, for example, strings. Let's encode the country field by dragging it over into the label channel. We don't see a chart yet because we also need to encode the aggregation channel, and aggregation channels are typically used for number values. In this case, I want to count the number of documents per country. A simple way to do this is to drag the _ID field into the channel. It uses count as its default aggregate function. And there we have our first chart. You can hover over the individual segments to get some extra information. There's also a legend included in the top right corner. Let's give this chart a title, maybe listings per country. And then we save it and return back to the dashboard. And there's our first chart. Charts on a dashboard can be rearranged. You can drag and drop them, and you can also resize them. Let's add another chart. For that, I'll just click on the Add Chart button here at the top right, and it takes me back into the chart builder. Again, I choose a data source from the selection, and charts again samples the data. And for this chart, I want to create a bar chart that tells me something about the prices of the different listings across suburbs. I think I've seen a price field here in the field panel, but I can also use this filter up here and just search for any fields. Yep, there it is. So I'll start with the encoding and drag that into the aggregation channel. And because I want the average price, I choose the average or mean aggregate function here. And now we need to encode the suburb that's also in the address subdocument. This one in address, I'll drag this over into the category channel. So let's wait a second until this chart finishes loading. And here we are. And that's almost the chart I wanted. There are lots of different suburbs, probably more than are sensible for a chart like this. So I'm going to reduce this, and I use this limit results toggle here and just reduce it to maybe the top 30. So that's better. And the other thing I notice, there are lots of different suburbs that I don't recognize. And for this chart, I just want to focus on suburbs in Australia, which is where I am based. And that's also easy to do in charts. You see there's this other tab called filter. And if I click here, there's another one of those drop zones where we can drop fields. So it's very easy. I just drag over the country field. It does a quick sampling of the values and shows me the available values here. And I'm just going to deselect everything and then select Australia. There we go. So that's all the Australian suburbs, the top 30 sorted by average price per suburb. I can give this chart a title, average price by Aussie suburb, and then also save it back to my dashboard. There it is. Let's also resize that. And maybe let's create one more chart. For this one, I already know that I want to build it on the same filter and the same data source than the previous one. So instead of starting from scratch, I can start by duplicating the existing chart from this context menu here. And you see it takes me straight into the chart builder, and I can continue from where I left off before. You see it still has the same filters here, and I'm just going to clear the encoding cards. And for this chart, I'd like to look at the number of reviews over time, and specifically if we can see a seasonal pattern in that change. So I'm going to use a line chart for this. So I mentioned earlier that charts can work with rich schema and nested documents and arrays. And here we have this case where the reviews field is an array of nested documents, and they contain a date field. So let's drag that onto the x-axis. And you see something different happens this time. Charts has detected that this field comes out of an array, and it asks me how we'd like to resolve this array, how we want to reduce it to a single value per document so that charts can visualize it. So there are several options, and depending on what field type you drag in, there might be more. In this case, I want charts to treat every element in this array as if it was a single document. And that's what unwind array does. And then something else happens here. Because charts detected that the field that I dragged into the category channel was a date field of date type, it suggests to bin those dates by month. I can choose other bin sizes here as well, but I'm just going to keep the default. And then again, I just want to count. So I'll drag the _ID field into the y-axis channel, and we get a nice line chart. So here we see the last 8 or so years over time, how the numbers of reviews have increased. This drop off at the end is because the dataset was incomplete for that last month when it was exported. In order to see the seasonal changes though, I need to remove the year information, and that can be achieved with this periodic toggle. When I turn that on, charts will remove the year from the buckets and will just give me 12 bins or buckets, one for each month. And that's exactly what I wanted. And we see this nice pattern here where we have a drop off around February, March, and then it increases again September, October. And this nicely aligns with the winter months in Australia because we are on the southern hemisphere. Now I'd like to see the same kind of line for different countries, not just Australia. And this is where this series channel here at the bottom comes in that we've been ignoring so far. So I can drag in the country field, once again from the address document, into this channel, and nothing happens at first because remember we still have a filter active that filters out everything that is not Australia. So let's switch over here, and as soon as I add back certain countries, for example Spain, you see they also appear as a new series on this chart, and you see they're inversely correlated, and that makes sense because Spain is in the northern hemisphere. We could look at another one, United States, for example. They seem to have a lot more bookings than the other two countries. So let's turn that off again and just keep it simple. So say I'm happy with this chart overall, but I want to make a few changes in the way it looks. For example, these axis labels. So this where this third tab comes in, Customize. When I click over here, the first thing you see is that I could change, for example, the colors of the different series in my chart. I can drag and drop colors. There's also a color picker included, so you can change them however you like. We also have these data markers. They're these circles, and also value labels that you can activate if you like. And then for each of these channels, we have a different section. And here you can override the labels. So for this one, I can say review month. And for the y-axis label, I can say number of reviews. And maybe for the legend, I just simplify to country. And you can see it here in the top right corner. These labels are applied instantly. So let's just give this chart another title. And we'll save it back to our dashboard. Once again, I can resize this chart, just make it look nice. And this is my dashboard. I'm happy with that. And now I could share this dashboard with other users in this project, or I could create a public link and share it with the world. So that was just a short introduction of some of the basic features of MongoDB charts. There's a lot more to discover, and I encourage you to just play with our sample datasets or with your own data. And if you'd like to learn more about charts, I suggest you go check out the other demo videos and visit the presentation that my colleagues Tom and Scott have put together. Thanks for watching.